what the company program did for me was it exposed me to various other things. In addition to starting a business, I was opportune to know about technology from a very young age. Hi, Okechukwu Uche, an ALU alumni and an alumni of the J Nigeria company program class of set of 2017. So I schooled at FSC Aba, did my junior secondary school and senior secondary school while I was in FSCC. And during the course of my studies, I came across a friend of mine who was then the senior prefect at FSC. While helping him arrange his bookshelf, I came across the company program brochure in his bookshelf, and it piqued my interest because I've always been fascinated about entrepreneurship, leadership, and anything sustainable development. And I reached out to him to ask him a bit more about it after flipping through the pages of the brochure, and he briefed me about it and told me about the whole idea of starting a company while in high school. That was like fantastic, and we had a long conversation, and I told him I'll be interested in that. Unfortunately, his company was liquidating at that moment, so he connected me to the programs director in charge of our school, in charge of the company program rather for our school, which I had a conversation with her, and she told me about when she told me she was going to put me in the pipeline to when next. In 2016, so she called me to tell me, oh, the program was going to start again, and if I was still interested in joining the program, and I said, yeah, definitely. We actually formed a company as peers rather in FSCC then, which we did, and fortunately enough, I got nominated to be the company's president. So which it was my duty to oversee everything from ideation to market research to product development to go to market, the entire phase of that, and even to shipping out our products, making sales, raising funds. So it was an entire product development life cycle, so which we did, and fortunately enough, we were able to raise a bit of capital by selling shares to people, to our fellow students, and as well as the staff members, and also family and friends. Post high school, I took a 2-year gap year and before my university, and that was very intentional because it was a period of self-discovery for me, and it was a period of just trying to see where my next footing would be, and just trying to gain skill sets as much as I could. So during the process of the 2-year gap year, I got a call from my high school programs director saying she wanted to introduce me to someone, which fortunately was one of the GA staff, Mr. Oguna Achebe. So we had a long conversation, an introduction, and just getting to know, getting to reconnect back to the GA as well. And during the course of our conversations and relationship, he gave me a call sometime, told me about ALU, and they had an event in Lagos, Nigeria. And if I was free, I could attend the event. And post that, I never knew about ALU. I knew about ALA through JA actually. So I knew about ALA while in high school through a friend. We had gone for one of the JA competitions in partnership with Oracle right at CC Hobby Aba. And during the course of the conversation, we got introduced to ALA. And I also had a friend of mine from Caro Favored, which was another GA institution. And we had a conversation about it because he had gotten admission already at that point, and we had a conversation about ALA. I did my research about the institution, so I made an application there. So I was so keen on going to ALA, and fortunately enough, I got into the ALU event, and I realized ALU was actually a sister institution of ALA, and I was like, okay, interesting. And I was encouraged to make an application to the university, which I did. And fortunately, I got into the university, and I was also fortunate enough to get a full ride scholarship by the MasterCard Foundation to study at ALU Mauritius, so which I took the offer. It wasn't the most just through that process wasn't there were a lot of things I need to figure out because it was a new move for me. It was a different shift, for me, even though I went to boarding school, but now I was going to school outside of the country. So there were a lot of conversations I needed to have with people, with myself first, with people, with family, with friends, with mentors, and a whole lot. So there are a series of those conversations going through. And fortunately enough, I was able to make it down to Mauritius and schooled at ALU. And I think that was such a very phenomenal experience for me. I'm just getting to learn a bit more about myself, getting to learn a bit more about leadership, getting to learn a bit more about entrepreneurship, connecting with people from over 30 countries on the continent, and also the model of institution, just chasing the mission-driven model and mindset that ALU as an institution has, and just going through education with a focus of I need to make impact, I need to do something for the continent. It's our responsibility to determine the future and the face of how the African continent works. So going into ALU day one with that mindset of it was a mission-driven education where, regardless of the choice, the course of my study in school, the mindset was always how can I live a life of impact. While also at ALU, I was also fortunate enough to be part of various programs. I think notably the Global Leadership Program that ALU runs, which a set of about 10 to 15 or 20 students get the opportunity to go for a month-long leadership boot camp right in the US, in Silicon Valley precisely. And we were able to go through a series of programs, visiting the various companies around the Bay Area, as well as having conversations with a couple of CEOs in US and various leadership development programs as well. So I was fortunate enough to also be part of that, and I was also fortunate enough to just have various interactions and pitching competitions as well as, and so I did that through about 3 years while in ALU, and also post ALU. I think it's been a phenomenal journey, just actively chasing my mission and contributing to various social and development projects across the continent. The entire journey with the company program was quite an interesting one. So while in school, we made it part of a club and society we had at FSCC Yabra. So it was open to anybody and everybody who wanted to be part of the club, which we had about, I think our first meeting, if I remember correctly, there were over 30 students coming into the classroom, and the GA volunteer was there. Like, this is quite a bunch of students coming through, and over time we had conversation. We had our first meeting. The volunteer from GA walked us through the entire structure of the program and how things would look like and the entire vision of it. So I remember we had a meeting. One of our sessions was around design thinking, how to ideate, and I remember one of the concepts we had was about divergence thinking and convergence thinking. So we went really wild in terms of product ideas, and we had various people sharing their ideas. We had about 2-3 meetings just trying to decide what the product was going to be like. So we ended up having to make the rechargeable battery powered inverter, and this was coupled from recyclable materials. I think it was quite an interesting one for me, and also for my peers as well, because that thought was about product conceptualization. We learned a lot about design thinking, emotional intelligence, empathy, because we needed to ensure we were going to use it. So we also had to talk to potential buyers, which were, in our case, were our staff and the school staff members. So we had to talk to them and just really see what is one need within their community that if there was a solution for, they could potentially buy. So there were a lot of challenges, even from fundraising initially. I think our first major capital came from the programs director. And because we are told how we needed certain money in order to get this product running, but we needed to raise funds. So in as much as we sold shares, she was our first donor in a way. It was a donation to us. But what we decided as a company was rather than investing the amount she gave us into building the inverter that we weren't sure it was going to work, right? So we said we were going to make sort of little merchandise. Fortunately for us, we had our school inter-house sport around that time. So various members of the company said, oh, my mom makes Zobo. How about her making Zobo, selling it to us at a lower price, and we would sell during inter-house sports? Oh, I know how to make popcorn. How about we requesting for us to make popcorn during inter-house sports? So we did all that. So in order to raise money, so we sold bracelets, we sold slippers made from various beads, we sold drinks during inter-house sport, we sold popcorns, we did things like that in order to raise more money to fund the big project in a way. I think also another challenge as well was just working with your peers, right? It wasn't the most easiest, I can tell you, because I think from 30 in our first meeting, we reduced to about 15 to 20. So we had a lot of people walk out. We had moments where I literally came to meetings and we would have conversations, and sometimes I'll get my voice over the roof, right? Just because we needed to get things running, right? Not a lot of people understood that. A lot of people walked away, but we were able to. We had a good number of people that we needed to work with, and also even balancing through school. I remember a friend of mine literally asked me, am I now an entrepreneur or am I actually here for academics? And it's just difficult balancing through things. As an individual, I had to spend long nights just reading to try to catch up with my academics. I had to actually go for extra classes. The company program was my bedrock to understanding how the world works, right? Because it taught me, it gave me the practical elements to leadership, so even running a business, right? We learned various things. We learned about communication, we learned soft skills, we learned about presentation, which are very much essential skill sets we need in the 21st century and even in the world we live in. And also through the company program, I was fortunate enough to also go attend various competitions. I think from either tech-based competitions to just speaking engagements or just attending conferences. And I think that exposed my mind while I was in high school. That exposed my mind to certain things, and even down to the choice of course I was going to study. So I remember when I initially was applying to ALU and looking through the programs they had, I needed a course that had the infusion between business as much as possible. And then at ALU we had, I think the closest to that was business management. So I needed also exposure into the world of business, how the world international business works, right? And because that was sort of a passion I had from a very young age, trying to understand what entrepreneurship was, and so that was what I had always wanted to do with my life. And through that, I was able to pick to study business management. High school students need to see inspiration, right? That happens beyond their four walls of their classrooms. They need to see, like I said, a model of possibilities. So I think having sort of industry experts come in as volunteers gives a sense of, if I dream it, I am seeing the possibility right in front of my classroom, right? So I think it helps the students to dream well, dream big, and also see that their dreams are actually realistic, right? It's only a matter of time, right, and a measure of intentionality. So I think having industry experts visit the students or part of the company program, I think would be brilliant, and I think it's something that we need to continue more. And I think other various activities that would help sort of holistically develop the entire company program would be maybe having industry visits or having a bunch of high school students from various multiple schools get to visit, sort of like a site visits to various companies. I think young students need to see model of the possibilities of things rather that beyond their education, their school environment, because I think the school environment or the classroom could be a bit restricting. So having them get exposed to things that happen in the real world from an early age, I think helps set their mind towards a particular direction of success in a way. And just talking about communities and how the school authority should embrace it. So I think my philosophy that I've come to understand is learning happens beyond the classroom, and even just intentional development happens beyond the educational system. So having other various extracurricular activities helps develop a student, right? Either mentally, emotionally, physically as well, and also intellectually, right? Having extracurricular activities like the company program shapes a child's future, shapes a child's mind. What the company program did for me was it exposed me to various other things. In addition to starting a business, I was opportune to know about technology from a very young age. So I remember my first time visiting a tech hub was sometime in 2016. And this was for a competition. That was my first time learning about coding, SQL specifically. And so it exposed me to a lot of technologies and the possibilities of what technology could do to the entire society and various social impact projects. So I think embracing extracurricular programs like this helps develop the students holistically, just beyond the normal academic system, and more importantly, I think it prepares them actively for the future of work. I've seen the role communication and relationship plays, right? I've learned to value people more. I've learned to just be genuine and be value driven, right? As much as I want to form relationships, I think it's also important that I stick to my value system, right? So I think what the company program helped to do in terms of leadership capacity was it helps me understand it helps me understand myself a bit more and the things that drives Okechukwu and the values Okechukwu should live by. And I think I've lived my life based on some of the principles and values that I was able to set during the course of the company program. And I think post the company program, I think that's also helped me to evolve to the man I am today, and I think to the person I'm becoming in the future. With the reality of where I am at the moment, a lot of my successes is attributed to the J company program. Something significant is getting a full ride offer to study at ALU in Mauritius came through the relationship I had with Junior Achievement Nigeria, right? And I was fortunate enough to get the scholarship, and also through that, various other opportunities opened through getting exposed to a network of influential people in Nigeria, outside, within the continent, and also outside of the continent. I've also been fortunate enough to visit quite a number of countries, going on attending various other programs such as the Leadership Bootcamp, also and other various leadership programs, as well as also being part of the global JA community, serving as a gather reporter for 2 years consecutively, and also serving as a youth advisor for junior achievements on a global level. I think if not the company program I had in high school, this access to these opportunities wouldn't have come through the way it did. I don't think Simi Woguru, I think she brought the junior achievement program or concepts to Nigeria initially. So I would say thank you so much, Simi, for the entire leadership and the vision to have this in Nigeria. And I think over the years, it's been such a landmark vision that has helped develop young people within Nigeria and even the continent as large. I think I would also like to thank my alma mater, FSC Yaba. I think just being part of the community, I was so fortunate enough to receive support, guidance, and mentorship during the entire GA experience. I'm thankful to GA Nigeria and the entire staff, the entire volunteers. I think in particular, my volunteer during my company time, Mrs. Shubolu Ekpemolu. So I think I'm also grateful to her. I think my story has just been, you've been part of my story and you've been part of my journey. Grateful to Ugona Achobi for the call and the support to actually come through the ALU event. And through that, I'm actually an ALU alum and a MasterCard scholar as well. And I think I'm just grateful to my parents, to my siblings, for the various love and support that you guys have granted me so far. Pre-company program and also post being an ALU alum at the moment, I think my journey has been community, and just like the famous phrase, right? It takes an entire village to raise a child. I think my life has been a testament to that it's been various village members that have raised me. Yeah.